some more Salt and Sanctuary. So in between streams, I actually went and looked at my trophy list for this game, and I was somewhat dismayed and alarmed at my memory to learn that, uh, according to my trophies, I only beat two bosses in this game, so that's definitely misremembering. I don't know if there's like mini bosses in this game, but I do remember playing a fair bit. Unfortunately, I don't have that save file available anymore, so it's hard for me to confirm. But I do think I played at least like 10 or 15 hours, if not 20 to 25 hours in this game. The other thing I confirmed is that the last time I played this game, or at least received a trophy, was in late 2016, so it's quite a while ago. It's been quite a while since I last played this game. I may be conflating this game somewhat with Death's Gambit. You're really not gonna let me buy anything? Alright, so I'm gonna look at my inventory for a while, but I think I'm gonna go ahead and take the oath for this game, for this sanctuary. Throwing daggers, glass bottles, some parchment, and an inkstone pencil. Pencil? Pencil. The bottle seems uncertain about remaining in this universe. So I have no idea what that is. Okay. So yeah, I don't know why I didn't think of this before, but I don't really have any interest in the whip at all. The only reason I picked this class was because of the crossbow, which, to be fair, I haven't really been using. But maybe this setup with the sword and the crossbow will be a little bit more useful to me. So yeah, this other armor set that I found doesn't seem very useful. Alright, so this is a little bit more streamlined. Can't get used to not being able to use the D-pad, but whatever. Alright, so yeah, so apparently I haven't played this game in a very long time. Pitchfork, pouch of salt. Secret way, proceed into darkness. What else? Been a while since I played the game. Didn't get as far as I thought. Although I definitely spent a fair bit of time exploring in the game. but it looks like I didn't solidify any of that exploration with boss fighting. The other thing that happened while I was away was that Sony announced finally the price and release date for the PS5. Sorry, this is all just too loud in my headphones. Arrow self bow. Okay. So I'll probably address that briefly here just to be topical. Bundle of salt, soldier spear. Okay, so finally I'm getting some new weapons. Let's look. Got a spear, got a bow, got a couple keys, fortress key. Stone cleric, small stone figure in the form of a wise cleric. Offer to stone cleric to an altar. Offer the stone cleric to an altar to summon a cleric to the sanctuary. Grants prayer potency bonus to sanctuary region. That's a lot. That's a mouthful. Stone sellsword. Okay, so it looks like different religions have different items that can be offered to them. So they're, I guess these religions are kind of like the covenants in Dark Souls 3. Trinkets to sell, trinkets for coin. Let's see what you have to say first. Oh, so but you came along, I've gathered things, trinkets and such. Trinkets for gold, that's what I've got, trinkets for coin. Okay, you could just, if you're going to write dialogue that inane, you could just leave it out. Nobody's really interested. Lock of hair, soldier's memento to a deceased loved one. It held the promise of eventual reunion. Its memories can be used by a blacksmith to upgrade weapons. Endless Fang, a fang left behind by a vanquished beast. Its lifespan must somehow reach back to ancient things, far beyond that of its owner. Bolt, flame bolt, torch, stained page. Apply it to your weapon to add arcane damage to your attacks. Crush its brittle pages in a holy place to expunge its sacred light. Okay, armor sets. Doppelsöldner Barbut. Class 2 heavy armor. Class 0 light armor. Okay. So these are actually kind of pricey. So I'm not going to buy anything. I'll abstain for the meantime. Okay. But I mean, I see that guy. Or that guy. Holy shit. So, just to briefly address the PS5. In case anyone hasn't been here before, I always harp on about the fact that I think the PS4 generation was rushed. Certainly the Xbox One was rushed. I think if they would have market tested, especially the Xbox One, a little bit more, I think they would have quickly realized that people just were not interested in things like the Kinect or all the like television and cable. Sorry, I just have to turn my volume down. I don't know why the volume, the sound mixing on games on this console just seems to be all over the place. Sometimes games are too quiet and I have to like really blast the volume just to hear dialogue and stuff. And then other times it's way too loud, especially when I use headphones. Still feels a little bit too loud. What can I say? So anyway, yeah, PlayStation 4 was rushed, and I'll stick to talking about Sony because I don't really care about Microsoft. I I don't know what's going on over at Microsoft, but they haven't done anything that's even slightly interested me since basically the release of Halo. Torch. So I guess when I light my torch, it's just going to take the spot of my crossbow, which I'm not using. So. That seems like it doth. Whoa, okay. All right. And, well, here's what we know. PlayStation 5 is going to release in early November, which is 2 months from now, very soon, for the price of $500 in the US. Obviously, there's slight variations in price across regions. I'm not clear if I saw any kind of payment plan, but it's likely they wouldn't have put that up in the video, in the presentation they were giving. But anyway, you know, $500. So I do think it's clever that they're offering people these payment plans. At least Microsoft is. I assume PlayStation will do the same. Even if they haven't announced it yet. I can't really see why they wouldn't. Why do you have to put the item right fucking next to the Switch? Okay, so there's a shortcut. I'm not really interested in the payment plans, like, I mean, I either have the money to spend on a video game console or I don't. Even though, like, at the moment I'm so broke that I can't even afford a game, I don't really foresee that being a problem. You know, I can do something to get the money. Yeah, I think I was here before. Holy shit. So this is definitely a pretty high level area compared to what I've been fighting. Yeah, I was definitely here before. So either I encountered the boss in this area, or this was the boss that made me quit the game. So at the time that the PS4 was announced was the last time I upgraded my PC. And when they announced the specs for the PS4, I was like, what the hell? It has like a slightly better GPU than the one I just put in my PC, and it has less gigs of RAM than I just bought for my PC. I think the base PS4 has 12 gigs and my PC has 16. And that was just because I was like, I can't really justify spending more money on more gigs of RAM. But it was very cheap and very easy to install. So I could probably still go back and put in more RAM, but you know, my GPU is not that great. And more importantly, the CPU on my PC is just slow. So that's basically why I stopped upgrading my PC. Is the CPU is just very bad and slow. So no matter what I do to it, my PC is never going to be that great. And I'm due, or overdue, I guess you could say, to build a new PC from scratch. In fact, that might be what I do next instead of buying a PS5. Is build myself a great little PC from the ground up. Sorry, I'm distracted because I'm letting my eye kind of rove over the screen. And now that I'm playing more of this game, I'm remembering that I seem to have a kind of a lack of visual clarity in this game. And I'm starting to remember that was one of the things that I disliked about it. Curiosity. What creature persists in the face of such suffocating despair? The others have begun to kneel. Will it join them? Yes? No. Words are nothing without fear. I see it. I see in it a shred of courage, and this offends me. In time, it will kneel. And when it kneels, it will kneel not in acquiescence, but in the darkest despair it will ever know. Okay. It's a little annoying that I can only attack horizontally. I wonder if I can... Yeah, there we go. I should really start using that crossbow more. So there's the trap. Okay, there's the trigger. Red shark, drowned bandits here. Alright, so I'm probably going a little bit farther than I really should be, but YOLO. Stone guide. Ah! Really need to be more careful where I go. Alright, let's head back to that sanctuary and level up and see what else we can do. Excuse me one second, I'm going to turn my AC down because it's getting hot. Alright, so back to the PS5. So why am I harping on about the PS4? Well, I think that whole generation was just rushed. It really came out sooner than it needed to come out, in certain respects anyway. Now, the hardware for the PS3 and the Xbox 360 was getting pretty old by the time. Now, if you remember, the PS3 came out, I think, like almost a full year after the 360. And so the 360 was already established as a very dominant console. And it was also very, well, I never liked the 360, but I guess people were kind of used to it. You could go online with it. That was the first console where you could go online right off the bat. And people were playing Call of Duty, which was insanely popular. Oh, hey. Make offering. Okay, I'm gonna have to look into that. Let me, before I get distracted, let me make this point. So, people were happy with their 360s. They were streaming Call of Duty, or not streaming. Some people were streaming. You couldn't stream from the console. But the thing is, the 360 was very easy to record gameplay from. So even if you weren't able to stream directly from your console, or had it hooked up to a PC to be able to stream from your PC, it was very easy to hook up your console to a device and record gameplay. And then that's when YouTube kind of started blowing up. People were just putting up their Call of Duty gameplay and getting tons of views. Now, the PlayStation 4, when it finally released, was a little more difficult to do that from, even though it was generally displaying games at a higher resolution. You weren't really enjoying that because the PS4 had the high definition copyright protection, which meant that if you were trying to copy the signal directly from your PlayStation, you likely weren't able to do that unless you bought into some fairly expensive hardware that let you bypass that copyright protection. But anyway, what that resulted in was that the Xbox was way more popular lifetime than the PS3, even though the PS3 was objectively a better system, and certainly by the end of it had much better games available for it. But Sony spent all this money on development for the PS3, and it ended up not paying off because developers were confused by that dual processor that the PS3 had, and so they weren't really able to make use of the better hardware. So in a lot of cases, like games that were ported over to the PS3 actually ran worse. One notable example was Fallout 3. When that game launched, had a lot of trouble and it wasn't until it was patched that it ran okay. But from everything reported, it was just a lot smoother to play on the 360, even if it was probably at a lower resolution. You will denounce the 3 and become an apostate. Okay. Well, I don't really know what that means. So. I don't have anything to level up skills. Guess I can level up. $10, $20. Learn prayers. Let's do prayer. That's certainly useful. Holy shit, I got a shitload of gold. I only had like 600 when I started playing just now. A sealed clay vessel of light water, the bane of all things. Blah, blah, blah. Light water set to hold the spirit of Devlara. Okay. Blessed page, a page from a blessed tome. The strength of the 1,000 miracles still clinging playfully to it. Some armor sets. Flanged mace. Cleric's kite shield. Let's buy that, actually. Yeah. Tell you what, if I'm talking to a merchant and I'm hitting the cancel button like 6 times, I'm done talking to the merchant. So you can just not make me have to go down to done. Stupid. Okay, we'll see how that goes. Anywho, to finish up this rant on the PS5, so the whole generation, Sony was basically behind, and I think it kind of stuck in their craw a little bit because, you know, they had released a better system. They had a free online system where, you know, if you wanted to play against people online, you didn't have to buy any kind of subscription. And that's still true, by the way. You could still go back and play PS3 games and play them for free. I still have my PS3, and I regularly go back and play Black Ops 1, which is one of my all-time favorite online games. And you can still play it, and there's still people playing that game, so it's a lot of fun. So basically, Sony was determined to beat Microsoft to the punch next generation, or at least match them. So there was no way that Sony was going to release their next platform, which turned out to be the PS4, more than, you know, a month after Microsoft. And in fact, I think they pretty much released at the same time. So they wanted to be in direct competition. Now, the problem was that neither manufacturer was really ready to release a console. Microsoft had thrown all their weight behind the Kinect and this, like, what would you call it? This, like, inner media connectivity where they were expecting you. It was like a very. Their biggest mistake, too, was like focusing so much on the North American market, where they're expecting you to have cable, which a lot of people don't even have cable anymore. And even at the beginning of that generation, people were like getting rid of cable. I didn't have it at that time anymore, and don't ever plan to have it again. but I think I was far from the only person. Um, but you know, I can't really imagine that even overseas, like in the UK, which is probably like the closest um, neighbor to us as far as like the way people consume media. I don't think cable works the same over there. You know, like I don't think people generally have. Maybe it is. I don't know because there are. I'm somewhat familiar from when I traveled to England in 2005. That there's things like Channel 4. I don't know what you do with these things. But I don't know how prevalent it is really to have cable. But then when you start going overseas, certainly in like Latin America, you know, Central and South America, and Asia, I think the models for the way people consume media are very different. So I think they really shot themselves in the foot. Now, Microsoft has not had success historically with other regions, but I think after this, they just, you know, they really sealed their fate, and there was just no way that people were going to buy into the Xbox ecosystem. So I don't know how that really works out for them. I know that people do buy Xbox in Japan and stuff like that, but I'm pretty sure those numbers are pretty low. So I don't know. I don't know what their like long-term strategy is, but I I just can't imagine that it's working too well for them. But still, I mean, they're the second most dominant console uh, maker in the world. Actually, I'm not sure where they stand compared to Nintendo, but they're there. I'm pretty sure if Nintendo wanted to, they could make a console that would blow anything Microsoft makes out of the water, just in terms of like popularity, but certainly in terms of power. They have the resources to do it. The thing with Nintendo, of course, is that they don't want to cave into the third-party games and have an online ecosystem that they don't control entirely, and they don't want to have violent games on their platforms. So I think that's kind of what holds them back. So that brings us to the PlayStation 5, right? So what's going on with this new generation? Well, I think we're in a situation again where the console manufacturers, who are always going to be behind personal computers in terms of power and what they can really offer the gamer uh, in terms of games. Huh? Fuck. I mean, there's no way a game console can release and be on par with PCs maybe for more than a couple months. You know, like if they had some special deal with like the GPU manufacturers and just got the latest hardware that they could and decided to take a loss to make it affordable to players, it would still be outstripped very soon. So that's not really an option. The best they can do is keep offering console gamers the convenience of a simple ecosystem where, you know, even nowadays where you do have to download patches for console games and upgrade them every once in a while, and you do have to pay, you know, your $60 to take part in a PlayStation Plus or what is it, Xbox Live. It's still generally simpler than having to have a PC and update your drives and make little tweaks here and there to make sure that your games are working properly. Now, it's not that difficult on PC if you know what you're doing, but it's still prohibitive enough that a lot of people apparently don't want to do it because, like, you know, like I have a PC, and even though I haven't changed it in 8 years, I still use it, and I use it for gaming less than I do my PS4. I still prefer to play with a controller. So that's my thing. That's why I'll never give up consoles. I'm just less interested in games that control with a keyboard and mouse. Not quite there. Okay. So I think, once again, we find ourselves in a situation where it's not really that games are so far advanced. Well, I'll put it this way. It's not that the hardware for the PS4 is obsolete. It's not that the hardware for the Xbox One is obsolete. The fact of the matter is, it was never ready to be on the market. So it was kind of dated by the time it came out. And so it's not able to push games the way it is. And because you can't really like update the hardware, you know, they kind of tried with like the PS4 Pro and the Xbox X. So you kind of have these like mid-level jumps in console generation, but it doesn't really work because you have to have parity. Like you have to be able to buy an Xbox One game and play it on that generation of console. Otherwise, you might as well just call the Xbox X something else, right? Even though they're like those two consoles in particular are so far apart that they might as well be a different console generation. But Microsoft can't afford to alienate its players that way, so they have to hold on to those. So it's getting to be quite a problem, and I'm hardly the only person that's forecast an ending to this console model. But I haven't really heard anybody say exactly how this is going to work in the future. But I really think that this traditional model of like releasing a console every 5 to 7 years, it's going to have to go away to some extent. I don't know if maybe they'll have like interchangeable parts that you can snap in and out of these consoles. But it's not going to work anymore. I think at some point people are going to start realizing that they can spend a lot less money to upgrade a PC here and there and get better results, as well as have access to a much bigger library of games. And especially now with Sony, which was really... I mean, this is the strength of Sony exclusives, was the fact that those games were not available on consoles alone was enough to drive people to get a PS4, even if it was on sale much later aftermarket. I mean, by now, buying a base PS4, much less a Pro, you can find one on sale and play a great selection of games, right? But there's no real need to buy an Xbox One. Like, all those games are available on the PC. So unless you just cannot get a hold of a good, desktop for yourself, there's no real reason to buy the Xbox. Not to mention paying for the yearly subscription to play online. Just doesn't make any sense. So there's been a lot of hesitation, and it's clear, and that's not even controversial at this point. Sony and Microsoft have really been hesitating to announce their plans for this console generation, to the point where people have been like actively asking, like, where the hell is the price for the PS5? You know, that's been months of that now. Now, of course, this year's been different in many respects because E3 didn't happen, and normally that would have been where E3, or rather E3 would have been normally the place where these manufacturers would have announced their plans for the next generation. That wasn't possible this year, and it's very likely that E3 will never come back. I mean, it's just become almost completely irrelevant. It's lost so much popularity. It's had issues with, leaking people's information. So I don't know what the future of E3 is. It's very possible that it doesn't have a future at all. But this is the world we live in now. 2020 is the year of COVID, and nobody knows what's going to happen in the future. So now both consoles are announced. I think, PlayStation 5 is announced for November 12th. And I guess Xbox Series X, with their stupid-ass fucking name and marketing strategy, is, I think like the 16th, so it's a few days of difference. Pre-orders are going to start tomorrow for PS5, and I'm guessing that the Xbox is already taking pre-orders. So we'll know in a couple of weeks which one is going to prove to be more popular. I really can't imagine a world where the Xbox seriously competes with the PlayStation. The only way I can see an exception would be because the PS4 has been so dominant. I think it's something like 100 million units sold, where there may be so many people bought into the PS4 ecosystem that they might actually wait out, basically do what I'm going to do, which is wait till at least the spring of 2021 to buy a PS5. And in the meantime, they may be curious enough about what's going on with Xbox and buy into that ecosystem. So, we'll have to see. For my part, I only briefly considered doing that because when you look at the... ouch. When you look at the lineup for Xbox, it becomes clear that there is no lineup. I don't know what the hell they're doing over there. And that's kind of like what bothers me about this whole console generation is like they're trying to get you to buy these consoles, but there's really not a lot of games coming out. There's not even a lot of games announced. I can't think of off the top of my head what the launch lineup for Xbox is. The exclusive lineup. But even taking into account third parties, I mean, there's Assassin's Creed, but I'm not interested in that game. I'm guessing whatever COD game, the Cold War, Black Ops Cold War, that's the next COD game. I'm guessing that'll be available at launch. But personally, I'm not really interested in those games. Not to mention the fact that, again, they're going to be available on everything, because they're not going to miss anything. And so they'll handily be available on PC, so there's really no reason to rush into the Xbox just to play them. Now, as far as the PS5, their launch lineup is pretty thin too. I mean, they have the Demon's Souls remake, which looks great, but I've already played the shit out of Demon's Souls, so I'm not going to buy a $500 console just to play that game. And by the way, even though it does look good and interesting, and I do plan on playing it at some point, it looks different enough from the original that I'm a little iffy about it, to be honest. Damn. So... oh, it's getting more expensive to get revived. Way more expensive, actually. Yikes. So, yeah, I'm not super optimistic. I think both companies are kind of rushing into this. I mean, the more you think about it, there's really no need for the consoles to come out this year. I think as soon as COVID hit, both companies had an out, and they should have taken it. I'm not sure why they didn't. I think each one didn't take it because the other one didn't take it, basically. And neither Microsoft nor Sony wants to be the one that didn't release a console this year. But if you think about it, it doesn't really make sense for them to throw out this like $500 purchase at people who don't have a job. Maybe you're fucking in the hospital and shit. I just think it's a really bad time for these launches. I think people are trying to be excited for them, but, you know, if you get down to it, people have other things to worry about. So unless they're really, really blessed and that their lives just have not been touched by COVID at all, I think people have other things to worry about, to be honest. So I don't know how this is really going to play out. I'm very skeptical about this whole thing. We'll see. Hopefully, I wouldn't want either company to be harmed to the point of, going bankrupt or anything. I think it's better for the gaming ecosystem that we have, healthy competition. I think they both make serious enough mistakes that it's good for them to have somebody to compete against them. God fucking damn it. Oh, they also showed a trailer for Final Fantasy 16. Sorry, can't talk today. Jesus, I can't fucking block anything. Fucking hell. So yeah, I guess that's the skinny on the PS5. Fuck. I would really like to get my salt back, sir. Let's let the healing do its work. Alright, so the shield isn't doing shit for me, so let's put this crossbow back. Wait, why aren't you working? What the fuck? What the fuck? He's fucking crazy. Can I don't want to grab the fucking platform. So yeah, so that's my PS5, Xbox Series X. What a dumb fucking name. It's like, what can we name our console so that nobody will want to buy it? I want my salt. I mean, I think you can write Microsoft off completely for the most part. I know that they have their fans, but I'm not one of them. So I'm not going to be entertaining any thoughts of buying the console. At this point, I've skipped all but their first system. Even on sale at a very cheap price, I was never compelled to buy a 360. And it's mostly because they basically always charge for Xbox Live. So, you know, even though I think it would have made sense to go from like a 360 to a PS3, because aside from the cost of the console, you don't have to invest anything else. It's not the same for the Xbox. So if you know, even if you buy a cheap Xbox 360, you still have to pay $60 just to play games online. So it's like, what? Why would you do that? But even as far as PS5, even though, you know, I'm excited for the next generation, I'm somewhat ready for it to start. I mean, I'm kind of tired of playing games at 30 FPS at 1080p. I don't really mind the resolution part. That's not really the biggest factor for me. But like, you know, I have a 4K TV. And I can't take advantage of it because my console is not powerful enough. And it's really like this cancer in game design where everybody's always trying to push these consoles to the highest resolution instead of like really making headway in other areas of game design. Like I would rather have like more characters on screen than better looking characters. You know, they don't really look that good. I mean, graphics to me are initially impressive, but after you get over those first few hours of the game, it doesn't really matter how it looks, you know? Every once in a while, sure, you'll be like taking a break or come back from a break or something, and you'll really look at an area of a game and be like, oh wow, this is actually really impressive. Crazy how far we've come. But for the most part, when you're playing games, you're not really looking at the graphics, you know? Let's see, I think... Potato. I don't have anything that can heal wounds. I guess not. I've been really disappointed to hear that a lot of games on PS5, and by the way, it's also not really clear which of the consoles is more powerful. Like some people say that it's the Series X based on specs. Increase your defense to arcane damage. Okay, sure. I should go back to the sanctuary because I have no healing. And then some people say that based, what is it, on the type of storage that the PlayStation 4 has, that it's actually better. So I don't know. I'm sure they're both about the same. Fuck. Okay, I really don't want to die again, so let's do this. I really don't think the difference is going to be that noticeable. But the fact that developers are still saying like, "Oh yeah, our game's going to run at 30 frames per second." I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me?" All this time and we're still going to be playing games at 30 frames per second? When I can, even my piece of shit computer can push some older games to 240 frames per second, and even some newer games like will run at 60 frames per second. I mean, I can run the Phantom Pain, which came out in 2015, at a very smooth 60 frames per second. Uh, and you know that's a current gen game. So what? That's really unacceptable to me. Like I'm tired of playing games, and you know if it was a locked 30 frames, that'd be one thing. But they're not going to be. So I can't handle it anymore. I can't do it. You need to give me something more. If I'm gonna if I'm gonna dish out $500 for a new console, you gotta give me 60 frames per second. Every game. It's gotta be every fucking game. And on top of that, they're saying like, oh well, you know, we're gonna have to raise the price to $70. Like, no, I'm not paying $70 for games. I'll wait till they go on sale. So, you know, that's another incentive for me to wait till the spring. Whatever games launch will likely be on their first sales by then. So, yeah, I don't know. You know, if anybody's more excited for these games than I am, let me know for sure. But I don't see it. I don't see the appeal of making that kind of purchase right now, especially this year. Aged wisdom. Gained 1 point of wisdom. Wisdom improves effectiveness of prayers. Enhanced magic. 1 point of magic. Devotion 1. Devar's Light. I'm kind of curious about getting into magic in this game, but I'm not really clear yet on what the operating stat is. I really should look it up. I guess let's open this up and we can start getting into some shields here. Class 1 heavy armor. I'm also not really sure how I get those black pearls. I don't know if it's random or what. Light armor. Let's look around here. So this seems to be the magic corner of the tree. Pretty extensive skill tree. That seems to be kind of like the heavy armor corner. I wonder how many black pearls there are in the game. I wonder if you kind of have to like pick a path, or if you can basically open the entire tree up. It might be worth it to take a quick look at a wiki or something. But definitely it's probably about time for me to commit to a direction on this tree. The thing is, since I'm not really finding like higher level weapons or merchants, I don't really have a huge incentive to open up different classes. So let's do this. Let's give myself some willpower. And then I can start hitting up these strength points. And I guess I'm going to kind of stay away from magic for now, because I think it'll mostly be a distraction for me. I'll use magic in a game if it's like a part of the game, but it seems like in this game it's basically optional. So I think I can safely, more or less, skip it. That poultice pouch is kind of calling at me, though. But I still think this is the way to go. Then I can open up this poultice pouch and then start opening up some strength. We'll go with that. Let's look at my inventory. Oh. Better shield. It's hard to tell if it's any better or not. Wow, that's significantly better. I think armor needs to be my next focus, so. Alright, so let's keep exploring a little bit. So yeah, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep my PS4. Once I get some money, I'll probably start thinking about getting a new PC, building one from scratch. And then next year at some point in the spring or sometime after, start seriously thinking about buying a PS5. Here's the thing, for me, the PS5, it's all going to be about the games lineup. For example, I know that I can get Demon's Souls on the PC at launch. So there's not a whole lot of incentive to play it on PS5, especially since I could probably buy it on Steam, and then once I upgrade my PC, it'll be running, you know, the way I want it to. My computer might be able to run a game like that, but it'll probably not look very good and possibly not run at all. But yeah, there's no reason for me to rush out and buy it on PS5. Certainly no reason to buy a PS5 just for that game. There's nothing else in the lineup that really interests me very much. So we will just have to see. I guess. I don't know what the hell I'm doing right now. Learn prayers. Class 2 prayers. So what? I probably just need to get that upgrade. Make offering. Oh, okay. Yeah. I remember this now. So... yeah, so you make offerings, and then this will bring different types of merchants to the altar. Guide. That seems useful. Ugh. Oh shit! God, your health just goes down like nothing. God. I guess it's the distance to your nearest sanctuary that determines how much you're charged. Fucking hell. Oh. I didn't even notice there was a parry. Oh. I didn't even notice that. Okay, so that makes the shield a lot more useful then. Makes sense. Stop doing that attack. I'm trying to test out the parry. It's not like Hollow Knight. Still feel a little bit underpowered for this area, actually. God! Will you please move? Alright, I think I've had enough of being salty, shall we say. So I'll cut it off here. See you next time.